Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and finally we got a breather, and it's thanks to Zach Bryan, and it's Billboard Breakdown.
I don't remember.
You know, it's funny, when I first started the show and had to deal with album bombs, I never would have predicted the time when I was actually grateful for them. But when the album is good, if not great, and my rules have made categorizing and handling them a hell of a lot easier, and I'm finally close to being on schedule with some of my plans, big plans I should add, keep an eye on my main channel, the big project is done, it's going to be released very soon, well that puts a smile on my face. And what do you know, Zack Bryan's best full-length album, still on the fence if it beats out the EPs, it hit the Hot 100, the great American bar scene. And with the rest of the chart mostly subdued thanks to a holiday weekend, real hard to complain. But let's start off with the top 10, where to my somewhat amazement, Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar reclaimed the #1 spot. Now it's important to highlight that the majority of this is driven off of the video and a ton of streaming momentum. Although a good sales week probably helped, as did the radio, which, hell, I'm shocked folks are still trying to promote it over there. Good on you, TDE. But it was enough to get over a bar song Tipsy by Shaboozey at number 2. Now the sales are still ridiculously strong, and that radio push is considerable, it just was not going to beat Kendrick on streaming, and I think after clinching the #1 last week, Shaboozey's probably just fine with that. Then we had I Had Some Help by Post Malone featuring Morgan Wallen back at number 3. Yeah, streaming is incredibly consistent, but the radio looks like it's peaking and sales are slipping. I'll give this one another week or two before it really slips into a proper downturn, we'll have to see. Then we got Million Dollar Baby by Tommy Richmond at number 4, but I'm considering this one's boost in context, because the radio growth is starting to slow down, and it's actually down on streaming. It might owe its positional gain more to Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter falling back to number 5, where her streaming losses knocked her back alongside lagging on the radio. And it's right next to Please 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 by Sabrina Carpenter at number 6, and I'm just not sure what's gonna happen with this one. The radio push is somewhat steady, and she's got better streaming, but I can't help but feel like this is gonna wind up like the #1 single that gets widely forgotten by the Sabrina Carpenter fans compared to Espresso and that song's cultural longevity. But that takes us to a debut in the top 10, Lies, Lies, Lies by Morgan Wallen at number 7. We'll talk more about the song later on, but it's got good sales and strong streaming, the radio just has to catch up. Let's kind of hope it doesn't, bit of a spoiler there. But it knocks back our 3 songs that have effectively been tied to the same order for weeks now. Too Sweet by Hozier at number 8 as the strongest, but also clearly on the downswing. Beautiful Things by Benson Boone at number 9 with the streaming edge, but a faster radio decline. And Lose Control by Teddy Swims at number 10, which might have a sliver better radio and sales, but otherwise it's bleeding. It's on its way out too. Now that naturally takes us to our losers and dropouts, and there are a couple big ones in the latter group this week. Greedy by Tate McRae, Whatever She Wants by Bryson Tiller, and Where It Ends by Bailey Zimmerman. They look to probably all have locks for the year-end list in 2024. Might be a little close for Zimmerman, we'll have to see. As well as Who's Afraid of Little Old Me by Taylor Swift as the deep cut that's only now just leaving the Hot 100, although it's not going to make the year-end list, let's not kid ourselves. But speaking of Swift, she had a loss for Down Bad at 92, along with continued losses for After Hours by Kehlani at 96, and The Boy Is Mine by Ariana Grande at 68. We also saw All the Gains for Kehlani by Jordan Adetunji fall to 62, and Off the Return, OK by JT just plummeted to 100. And of our new arrivals, Cowboys Cry 2 by Kelsey Ballerini and Noah Kahan fell to 84. Not altogether surprising, I think it might be a tough sell to any format, even if I think the song is great. But what did surprise me was Girls by Kid Laroi falling to 77. I mean, to me, this screams obvious radio hit. I wonder what the hell happened there. But outside of those, well, One of One by Gunna fell to 72, but the story might be the drops for Sexy Red, who saw Get It Sexy at 52, likely gone next week, even if the song will clinch its year-end list spot, and You My Everything with Drake down at 76. Not exactly promising there. Now, as expected in the album bomb week, there's just not a lot in terms of gains or returns, with the latter just being Purple Gas by Zach Bryan and Nolene Hoffman at 69. As for the gains, Well, I mostly understand Toby by Eminem, Big Sean, and Babytron. It is one of the better songs on the album. It's only going to pick up more beyond the big jump up to 27. But what perplexed me is Mamushi by Megan Thee Stallion and Yuki Chiba at 45. Really? Folks are getting behind this song that's so stiff and otherwise just not that impressive? I mean, I don't hear it with this one, but hey, I'm not against Meg getting a little shine for something that's different. But again, we are firmly in album bomb territory, and for an album that I have already reviewed. That is great. Comfortably in the larger tier, so we're just focusing on the top 20 on the best or the worst. Now this makes this week far easier than the past couple, so outside of that group, Funny Man at 99, Towers at 94, Northern Thunder at 93, Like Ida at 91, Memphis the Blues with John Moreland at 83, Boons at 74, Mechanical Bull at 73, Sandpaper with Bruce Springsteen at 71, real close with that one, but the groove is a bit too reminiscent of I'm on Fire, held it back a little, Bass Boat at 61, The Great American Bar Scene at 58, so goddamn close to an honorable mention, if only on how the diegetic pool ball clatter is that perfect musical punctuation after that first refrain. The Way Back at 57, Better Days with John Mayer at 46, which is dangerously close to a dishonorable mention, and American Nights at 21. So that makes for a much easier list, but we're actually not going to start with Zach Bryan here. Number 97, Lithonia by Childish Gambino.
At a break, he's finding out that nobody gives a fuck.
The odd thing about this Childish Gambino song, reportedly the lead single for his last album, is that the vibes around its release have been, well, kind of weird, or at least weirdly mixed from the folks that I've discussed the song with. Maybe some of it is coming from the spillover with the release of that 2020 album that had some cleaned up production, got dropped this year, of which I'm not sure the production was the full problem there. There were a lot of songs on that thing that just didn't really work, but I was curious how the hell this would all fall out, and I kind of get why folks might be divided. It's odd. It starts off with some organs welling up around Donald Glover's belting that kind of gave me some Frank Ocean vibes, but then it breaks into these noisier electric guitars and gleaming keys punching through to drive the melody that feels more honestly like Benson Boone, except the drums are drowned out at the back and the bass feels rather formless. And the content, okay, in this movie that this song is a soundtrack for, he's singing about the protagonist that he himself plays as the singer who comes out of seclusion into a post-apocalyptic world, where not only did he ditch his fame and fortune at his peak, in the new world his entertainment skill set is functionally useless. And credited Donald Glover to try to find some dramatic pathos and all that. Kinda runs at odds with the trailer, which also can't really settle for consistent atmosphere, but that weird tone also kinda underscores a lot of this song. It's not so much bad as kind of whinging and a little awkward. Okay, yeah, I get why this is left focused with mixed feelings. It's not bad per se, I just get the feeling it should be much better. Number 48, Oak Island by Zack Bryan.
Island first, the worst is yet to come. 'Cause no blood in the mud, I life on the run.
It did not take long for this to be highlighted as a fan and critic favorite from the Great American Bar Scene, and yeah, for damn good reason. I'll argue it's the best song on the whole album. The rattling, reverbed liquid guitars with very prominent bass interplay as the percussion will clatter, how much the choppy acoustics will ramp up across the second verse, increasing the tempo, the blast of trumpets after the hook, to the cacophony of the song's breakdown on the outro. It is charting a tale with no good ending, and it's kind of a swerve from the very obvious inspiration of Bruce Springsteen's Highway Patrolman, especially through some of those obvious New Jersey references. Now in that song, the protagonist was in a car chase with his brother who was a criminal, but he lets him escape into Canada, whereas here, as Zack Bryan comes to kick the ass of the thugs who hold his brother in debt, he realizes his brother sold out and joined those thugs to find a better life, which leads to this bone-deep disappointment and a realization the fight just got a hell of a lot more personal. It's gonna be one hell of a licking. It's a messy song that picks up the drama that can only come from brother fighting against brother, and man, that gravitas just resonates. Killer song. I'd argue it's one of Zack Bryan's best. Even if it doesn't stick around, you owe it to yourself. Check this out. Number 33, Tough by Quavo and Lana Del Rey.
Attitude, like a 38 made out of brass, tough like the stuff in your grandpa's glass. Life's gonna do what it does, sure as the good Lord's up above. I'm cut like a diamond shining in the rough. Tough.
When I heard about this collab for the first time, my stomach just sank. I was only just starting to kinda like her, so naturally Lana Del Rey decides to work with more rappers, consistently the most awkward and weak side of her entire career. And Quavo's an odd choice. Yeah, he's more melodic, but given her more literate sensibilities, I did not have a good feeling about this. And honestly, I'm still not sure I do. Mostly because the first thought that came to my mind was, oh, this sounds a lot like Post Malone, with the washed out smoky guitars and the clicking trap groove, and what do you know, Watt's here on production. Now from there it's a lot of backwoods southern country posturing about what makes someone tough and decisive, working through one's tragedy, playing into a lot of red-blooded machismo, which of course is going to attract Lana Del Rey, even if Quavo's pulling from deeper catharsis around Takeoff's passing. But once you realize how otherwise underwritten the song is, it becomes entirely reliant on chemistry between Lana Del Rey and Quavo, and I mean, credit for trying to interject more interplay on that second verse, but it's not really clicking. Part of it is how her vocals are swaddled in reverb, and that blunt tough that bookends the hook, compared to how clean Quavo's vocals sound as they punch through, where the attempted blend on the hook has Quavo dip into his lowest register to match her, and the intensity just is not there. I don't know, I've had a lot of weird feelings about Lana Del Rey's proposed country pivot for a while now, and this song's evidence of it. Again, it's not precisely bad, but it feels like getting the most out of a very limited idea, and not a good idea either. Number 14, 28 by Zack Bryan.
We're all grown now. The smoke seeping out of your bloody teeth, be your home somehow.
This is the most Zack Bryan song has sounded like a Jason Isbell song in a while. Now that's not uncommon. Jason Isbell's an obvious influence on Bryan's writing and sound, but it runs deeper here. The wheezing fiddle that sounds just incredible against the cleaner production, the melody of the hook, and just how those vocals are stacked, down to the writing where he reminisces about meeting his girlfriend's parents on his 28th birthday while he's in Boston, but now trying to console her amidst something of an existential breakdown in a bar in Brooklyn. Apparently was tied to the puppy that they had going through some surgery and actually coming out okay. Where in the second verse they visit a bar in Philadelphia and the vibe just isn't the same. The crowd's changed, but at least they managed to make it home. It just feels like a long exhale where the scattered scenes are stitched together to form a pattern of relief in those American bars that may not look or always feel the same. They're always changing, but they might be enough to hold folks together. Honestly, I'm a little bit shocked this is the song that did the best outside of the singles for this album, but I'm not gonna complain. The hook is great, the song's terrific. Please give this some legs. We could all afford to be that lucky. And finally, number 7, Lies, Lies, Lies by Morgan Wallen.
I'm still a fool for you. Nothing I wouldn't do for you.
So I don't know how much I buy into the rumor that Morgan Wallen and Zack Bryan were looking to go head-to-head on the 4th of July with their releases, but Morgan Wallen's label prevailed, and ergo this song got the benefit of a cleaner tracking week releasing on the 5th, rather than Zack Bryan getting his release day slotted into a slightly different tracking week on the 4th, on that Thursday. Ironically, I think I respect Bryan a little more for holding his ground, especially as I have less than zero interest in a new Morgan Wallen song with that title intended for another upcoming album. But you know what? Okay, it's a little better than I expected. Mostly because the melody is a deeper, minor key smolder, and we actually get some live drums for the shuffling percussion. It's more melancholic, and Morgan Wallen is comfortable awash in misery, as the lies in question are what he's telling himself. Because post-breakup, he's very much not over this girl, even as he tries to move on and largely fails. And man, I wish he was just focusing on denial, because the more self-pitying details that spiral out, the less I like this, such as the fact that he gave her up and she's already moved on, and on the third verse he's sure she's totally missing him too, so he's gonna call for that hookup. It might be better performed and produced than Thinking About Me, but it's got the same attitude, and for every word Morgan Wallen repeats to fill up space in the bar, the construction feels shoddier too. So yeah, it is better than I expected, but when my expectations are rock bottom, when we've heard this from Morgan Wallen time and time again, yeah, not enough for me to care. I'm skipping it. In fact, you know what? Easy worst of the week. With the dishonorable mention going to Tough by Quavo and Lana Del Rey, it's not even so much that it's bad as it is an experiment that didn't really work. It happens. Best of the week, honestly, is some of the stiffest competition for the top spot I have seen in a long time. As both Sandpaper and the Great American Bar Scene, they would have smoked the majority of competition in weeks throughout this year, but they're not even honorable mentions. When we got 28 that's going to take that spot, falling just behind Oak Island as the clear-cut best of this week. But sadly, I think this oasis is going to be short-lived, because odds are we're getting an Eminem album bomb next week. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.